Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L here to talk about the Vending Machine anime episodes 1 and 2, Reborn as a Vending Machine. Hey everyone, this is my second review for the week. I think I'm doing pretty good. And I hope I'm able to stick with it. Like I usually drop. Anyway, hey everyone. So, Vending Machine. I'm personally very interested in this kind of anime. It's been a while since I've actually sat down to watch isekai anime, mostly because I've just been so busy with work. But when it comes to the vending machine anime, I come in with a lot of curiosity. Just to like give you my perspective real quick, I find these kind of isekai really interesting. I've personally never done one of the inanimate object isekais, and I kind of want to know how to do it. I kind of want to know like what would succeed. So for those that don't know, like when it comes to the isekai that come from so you want to be a novelist or that website, or like the isekai that come from the amateur authors, a lot of times when it comes to those isekais, the ones that get made into the manga are usually the ones that are already popular on the website. So when you see the manga of these isekais, a lot of them, this is already the tested ones. These are already the ones who have the optimal form for mass consumption. So when you're looking at like this anime, it's like, well, thing did many things correctly to get a manga and then get the anime adaptation. So coming into this thing, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking like, what do you gotta do to make this work? And you know, if we're talking about the most technical thing, you should first look at when it comes to these kind of things is like, how many things does the author need to do in order to make it work? How many things does he need to do to make it so that this thing isn't over in like 5 chapters? And what you see here is you get the introduction of the system. You see how the magic that's involved in making the vending machine work, with like how things are teleported in and out. And then you have the blessing, and of course you have that barrier that shows up. The barrier is probably the single most important thing in the world in that case, just because the barrier is what prevents the damage from happening. The point system, to like a lesser degree compared to the barrier, I think also you could argue is like a really important thing to have there. Putting his life linked to the point system, I think, was really clever, and ultimately the integrations of a vending machine into the magic system, I think, was ultimately very clever. Really, the most heavy-handed thing to make this thing work is definitely the blessing from the gods. But it's really cool to see. One thing that happens with these one thing that happens with almost all anime or all light novels that have a gimmick is that a lot of times you kind of drop the gimmick after the first volume or the first couple of volumes. And the reason for that is the gimmick doesn't really work in a setting where you have power escalation. So a lot of times, seeing how long they can maintain the gimmick or adapt it into the future is really impressive. It depends on what manga you're talking about, because authors, you know, they all come in varying skill levels. Some are really good, some are really bad. But just to illustrate, like in slime, you know, it's reincarnated as a slime, but like Rimuru isn't a slime for very long. Like he takes on some really unique properties. And if you look at the things that Rimuru gets very early on to make his life as a slime even possible, you can see he has a lot of help. He has a lot of really incredible situations. And mind you, like in isekai, like your main character is supposed to be special, right? If you look over at reincarnated as a spider, she actually stays as a spider for a very long time. Like the author really stretched that one. But when you look back to Rimuru's story is really more about nation building. Spider is like that's a little bit more hardcore. I'm trying to think of other ones that keep their gimmick. ReZero is actually really good at keeping its gimmick. Anyway, coming back into this one, we have the vending machine, and when I'm looking at that opening, I'm seeing that he already has different forms, and already like when I see that, I see like, okay, like that's the extent of the gimmick. That's where the gimmick is starting to kind of show its limitations. Mind you, he still takes the form of vending machine, so like it's really good that conceptually they're kind of sticking to the idea of a vending machine. As I'm looking at this one, I am very interested in seeing how far the gimmick of being a vending machine can go before it gets stale. And like, you know, for novels, like the staleness, it's a little bit hard. A common criticism of web serials on the English side is that they start to kind of drag. They just kind of, like, a lot of times nothing really happens. It's just a lot of fluff. That happens in web serials, in my experience, that I've seen when you have a really uber popular property and it's already like been going on for like 7 volumes. And mind you, 7 volumes in a web serial might be equivalent to like 3 volumes in a light novel series. But like once you already get to that level, you have an install base that are happy to throw money at you. So like you don't really have a desire to change. Anyway, coming back to the vending machine isekai at that point, well, I'm just really curious to see if they were able to drag this out or stretch things out. Um, so one of the ways that you could do that is by bringing in all these characters, and I'm very surprised that the opening shows so many characters, and we already get introduced to the majority of them in the second episode. That was legitimately surprising. I'm interested in it too. I was a little bit sad with the opening just because it kind of showed the level of budget that was being thrown at this. But then again, it's the vending machine isekai. The fact that it doesn't have a high budget and just seems to have the generic quality that isekais tend to have. Mind you, it's not the cheapest looking isekai anime, but you know, they're not throwing the most money at this that they could. Seeing that kind of tells me that whoever the publishers are, they aren't expecting like super massive returns. They're probably trying to thread a needle here. So it's just a feel-good anime, which is fine. But seeing the budget levels just tells me that they don't think that this thing actually has legs to like be like a slime level sale or even a Sword Art Online level of sale. Heck, no. Well, Overlord. Yeah, you say it's not going to be reaching the sale numbers of those two. I don't think it's going to be reaching sale numbers of Overlord. I will be checking the light novel sales to see if something happens with it, though, because always worth checking. I have notes. Give me a quick second here. All right. So, one thing I think carries this whole thing is definitely how nice the guy is. I love that he is a vending machine otaku or a vending machine superfan. I think that was really neat. And then we have the girl, the main girl showing up, Lamis, and she has the supernatural, or she has the superpower blessing, or the super strength blessing, something like that. So I guess at this point, you know, we're moving on from the section where he like shows up in the world, he gets sorted out, figures out what he has to do, and then he meets the main female character. One thing that is worth pointing out here is how quickly a main female character is introduced. It's really interesting because when you're doing these kind of isekai, you kind of, if you look at it, the most standard isekais typically introduce a main female very quickly. When an isekai isn't introducing a main female in her optimal form quickly, it's because usually there's a lot more going on in the isekai. But we get her here really quickly. You need her there because like the guy can't carry the show by himself. And in order to see his kindness, you have to like put him to work with another character. So when it comes to those two, I actually think that was really neat. It's really wholesome. It was adorable. One thing I found really funny is that this girl seems to not be able to throw her punches correctly, or they don't land. And I think the read is that she's so strong that she like doesn't adjust her momentum correctly, or like she steps in too much, or like, you know, she's just going through the air so quickly, and then when she puts on the weight of the vending machine, she's able to hit things. Now, that was really interesting, but this is one of those spots where it makes you kind of feel like she's pretty brain dead, that she never thought to put on weights. But then again, like, if you have super strength, would you think that the way to counter it was weight? Well, I don't know, because, like, there's a level of intelligence that people should have, right? And mind you, it's strange that she hasn't adjusted to it, unless she only recently received it. Like, it opens up a lot of questions. Now, like, if we dumb this down just to, like, let's just go with it. Let's just go with the speed. You know, it's like, oh yeah, weight training, or like putting on a weight limits her, and it lets her land things better. Like, when you look at it from the perspective of just a quick way that the vending machine helps the girl, it helps her by redistributing her weight. That's a quick, easy fix. It's like, it makes sense that this kind of fix would come in the novel at this point in time. But this kind of fix is so stupid that if you were on a web serial and you did this fix, you are likely going to be criticized by the commenters, such that at some point you're going to explain why this happened in the first place. So I'm thinking, like, as a web serial author, if the commenters are coming down on you and are putting pressure on you, you're probably going to address this within 10 chapters. So I'm expecting this to be addressed or acknowledged later. Maybe. It really depends on what kind of author this person is. But yeah, this kind of thing is usually weeded out very quickly, so it would probably be explained. It will probably be explained later. Probably you'll find out at what time in her life she got that blessing and all that kind of stuff too. Just because, like, authors, when they're being dogpiled, usually go on defense really quickly. Is this the same for the Japanese audience? I don't know. I don't know if this is the same for the Japanese audience. Also, I don't know if Vending Machine was actually on a web forum. You know what? Let me check. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. The series originally published in 2016 as a web novel by the author and user-generated publishing site. Um, Actually, I don't recognize this one. Is this the one? Oh yeah, no, no, no. This is it. This is it. This is it. Let's become a novelist. Okay, yeah, yeah. Then there's yeah, yeah. No, 100%, 100%, 100%. This person would have been criticized. 100%. Yeah, you don't get to the top of that rank of those websites without being criticized. Yeah, no. So probably I would expect that to be addressed later on. Who's publishing this? Is it Katakoa? Yeah, it's Katakoa. Like Katakoa, like 100%. Like those guys, nah, 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 nah. I guess it depends on whether or not the editor for it thought it was a worthwhile thing to fix as well. But yeah, no, Katakoa. If Katakoa is doing it, then they're probably applying the Katakoa formula to everything. In there, probably modified a few things. I'm just going off like, just what they tend to do. Anyway, looking at that, yeah, I'd expect that was like the one glaring weakness in all of this. It's just that. It makes sense conceptually, but this is one of those things where like when you do it, you have to explain it because it's just a little bit too brain dead. It's too brain dead for the common internet citizen. Now, mind you, if Vending Machine garnered a really sympathetic audience, this doesn't get fixed. But like the thing is, like, I don't know the patterns. If this was on Royal Road, it would have been eviscerated because Royal Road on the English side is just very, very critical. And for those who don't know, Royal Road is a web novel sharing site. Okay, so let me just look at my notes again. Yeah, we have the Menagerie of Fools. I thought they were pretty cool. One guy looks like Belle from Dungeon. Is it wrong to meet girls in a dungeon or pick up girls in a dungeon? They were neat. They were neat. Again, I was very surprised how quickly those characters all came in after seeing them in the opening. Their first subjugation mission. What you're really seeing here is like a proof of concept. Like, how can a vending machine help? And I actually found that whole sequence with the Mentos and the Coke to be really clever. And I love that they went for the eyes. Going for the eyes is always such a good move. If you're ever doing a story, just go for the eyes. Whenever someone goes for the eyes, everyone always seems to think that that's a really smart tactic. Like, I don't think you can do, I don't think you can do a power-heavy story without having some kind of basic power like that. I don't really like smartphone isekai, but like if there was one thing smartphone did pretty funny in a really nice way was making people slip all the time, because it's like, yeah, you make someone slip and that is really debilitating. You need like a lot of power to be able to counter like a simple slip mechanism. Anyway, episode 2 was the episode of introducing all the characters in the opening. Speaking of characters, I do love the guards. I think they're hilarious. I think they're a nice gag bit. I do like this from the comedy perspective. One last thing that I really should talk about, because it's in the notes and it was really good. Thank God Lamis realized she could implement a yes-no system. Now, I'm personally wondering, do the vending machines in Japan, like, do they talk to you? Because, like, if they do, that's pretty cool. Like, the vending machines over here, they don't talk to you. They just kind of, like, eat your money and sometimes don't give you the item that you bought. So, yeah, if Japan has talking vending machines, man, bros, that's cool. Anyway, yeah, no, thank God she implemented the yes-no system, because that is what a smart person does. Again, this is one of those things where if she didn't implement a yes-no system, people would have eviscerated that. Again, I don't know what the Japanese are like, but in the English side, they would have eviscerated that. So it's one of those things of mark of cleverness, and it's like, thank God you were able to do that much. And when the author does it, like, they get brownie points on these kind of content sharing sites. Anyway, overall, Vending Machine Isekai. First off, I don't think it's a super serious series. I think it's a comedic series. So, bringing down like the criteria for how badly this should be critiqued. Just put it like it's like a mid-tier comedy series. That there's nothing wrong with that. It's nice. It's wholesome. The main character is actually pretty cool. I love how he died. It's a really funny riff on Truck-kun. In terms of a technical thing, I think, if you want to do this kind of isekai with inanimate objects and being reincarnated into an object like this, I think this is one of the ones that you should probably look at. Just look at the first episode and see and study it. The thing is, usually the first novels are the most important, because after the first novel you kind of hook people such that you can experiment with later novels, but that first novel is the one where you gotta sell the premise. So it's the first novel where the technical aspects are going to be the strongest. So if you were like looking into wanting to do a story like this, so far, the signs that I'm seeing here are really solid, with the introduction of the power, the introduction of the female character very quickly. A lot of times, introducing a female very quickly is going to save you. If you're not introducing the main female character quickly, it's because you think that the things before the female character are really interesting. And at that point, it's usually the setting is really interesting. A lot of times, male characters in isekais are not interesting enough to carry something without their main female beside them for a very long period of time, unless they come from extraordinary backgrounds. If you're doing an everyday man like that guy, it doesn't really work. So you have to be mindful of that. Already there, I'm seeing like the regular signs of trends within isekai. But yeah, no, like if I would say like definitely good for just definitely good for like seeing the trends. Definitely good for a study there. At that point, I have to like address an elephant in the room. I haven't watched Reincarnated as a Sword yet, or Reborn as a Sword yet, and I think I should, because I think that might be the more popular one. But that's something I'll do later on when I have time. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. That's it for me. Overall, Vending Machine, Reincarnated, Reborn. Reborn is a vending machine. Got the title. Really, really cute. That's what it is. It's really cute. I'm interested to see little things here and there. Kind of want to see how difficult dealing with a vending machine is going to be from a narrative standpoint. But overall, really fun little story here. Guys, let me know what you thought down below. And until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.